Welcome back to our third episode of the Education Currency. My name is Robert Namoski and Chris.
And I'm Chris Kaladikis, and today we're going to be doing our episode on examination preparation. And in relation to examinations, students in school at all ages, it's obviously a very concerning area for a lot of families. How many hours should we be doing? What is a healthy examination schedule? And we want to touch on a number of those topics today, don't we, Rob?
Oh, absolutely. This is the most important, one of the most important topics, I think, because especially as students who are serious about their study, there's always that element of stress. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it better? Am I doing too much? What is the most productive schedule for me to actually study and learn? So with that, we're going to be looking at our study management and our study schedule. First thing is let's start with, are you actually studying to begin with? So we'll start off with, say, a student in Year 7 coming in from primary school, setting out a regular study pattern, and then from there we can build on it, moving into Year 8, Year 9, Year 10, and then getting ready for the HSC. From my experiences, it is a big jump from primary school into high school. And what you'd want for your student in Year 7 is to sit them down at exactly the same time every night and start off with at least, say, 15 minutes. 15, 20 minutes of regular study, and that's something else we can build on later.
Yeah, and when we say that 15 minutes of regular study, we're acknowledging that study is not homework. You do your homework, and then there's 15 minutes reflection on one of your subject areas, which is one of the issues with that jump from primary school to high school, because suddenly you're doing 6 subjects, all with different teachers, all with required study notes. And so it's important to put that in, schedule that, what you're going to do each night, and apply yourself with when you're going to do what.
Oh, absolutely. Homework is usually, I find, it's a way for students to say, okay, I've done my work. I don't need to do any more work. From my background in mathematics, I did all my maths in class. I don't need to study, I'm finished. Well, you can go back and redo those questions, like you said, in that study pattern. And one thing to be careful of is where the student actually just slides through with the homework, slides past the teacher, does enough to get the teacher and the parent off their back. So this is the one thing to be careful of as parents and ourselves as teachers. But parents, obviously, parents that are more hands-on can see this a lot better than us. We've got anywhere from 25 kids in a room, and now we do try and allocate a certain amount of time to each child. But if a child's intelligent enough to slide past where they do just enough work to get us off their back, and then enough work to, say, get their parents off their back, that's not studying.
And I can even say, with parent-teacher nights, for all us teachers out there, I'm sure you've been in a situation before when you're trying to critique how a student is going in your class, and then they might not be doing as well as the parent knows, and it's that exact reason that you said. They're doing the bare minimum to pass, and for us to say, yes, you're doing your work, but because they're not going that extra effort in really pushing themselves, that's why they're not getting those higher grades. So that's what we've got to differentiate. It's the actual homework, and that's what we're checking that they need to do, but then that extra study which they're making as a part of their own independent plan to further their knowledge and become more well-versed in that subject area.
Absolutely, and we see the results, and the parents will see the results. Myself, last year, one parent was quite concerned about their student, had a Zoom meeting with them, and we actually put in a study plan. That student came from middle of the class to actually topping the class in mathematics by the end of the year. And at a parent-teacher interview, I actually congratulated the parents on it, because I teach the same thing in class all the time. And I congratulated them saying, well done. Please continue with that same process in Year 8. Then on the other hand, when I asked the parent, okay, how's your son or daughter studying? Oh, they're studying in their room. My next question to the student is, do you have any computers in your room? Are there games on your computers in the room? So how much of the time you're in the room are you actually studying, or are you on an electronic device that distracts you from studying? And that's when the student's eyes drop down, and I can tell, okay, now we need to fix this problem. So I'd say, especially with the younger kids, be very careful of electronic devices in their room. Going into our topic of the study schedule and the time management, well, the time management factor is, well, monitor your child. Are they actually studying or are they in their room? So a word of caution, you could actually get them to study somewhere where you could see them. Have an allocated space somewhere in the living room or somewhere in the corner where you can actually see them doing their work.
And that obviously raises a very good point, because a lot of study these days is done with the student's school laptop. And we think that they're on their laptop in their bedroom, they must be studying. But we've got to be well aware too that laptops can have apps installed on them, social media, chat functionality, that can be distractors too. And that's why, while you may remove things from the room, that can be distractions, the actual device they're using itself can sometimes be distracting as well. And that's where we encourage you as parents, monitor your student, child while they are working.
When in a classroom, when I actually give them work on their laptop, I have to stand at the back of the room. I never stand at the front of the room, because standing at the back of the room, I get to see what's on the laptop. And I spend nearly the whole lesson going, come on, get back to work. No, don't do that. I know you're on a game. If you do that again, I'll take the laptop away and I'll give you a workbook. So I spend the whole hour walking up and down at the back of the room when I've given them their laptops to work in class. Now, I can safely assume that that would happen at home as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, of course, right now my children are very young. Yeah. And so when they do their homework, they bring it to a central area and they sit down there. My wife and I, we sit down and we assist them with the work. So we know what they're doing. And then obviously as children grow up, they get more independent, and we're counting on them more to administer their study plan on their own, that they're going through it. So we do have to make sure that what they're doing is relevant and it is on task, and avoiding those distractions.
Once you set that up as a parent, you've accelerated your child's learning. This is the biggest thing that I absolutely would recommend. Monitor where they are studying and make sure that you can see them. And 90% of my parent-teacher interviews with the Year 7 was that getting them to step into Year 8. I could assume Year 8 would be roughly the same as Year 7. What do you think?
Well, look, as we know with syllabuses that are used within schools, Year 7 and 8 go by a Stage 4 syllabus. So they are learning content that could be varied between the two year groups, but essentially is from the same syllabus. So you would be looking consistently from Year 7 to 8. Then in Years 9 and 10, you'd see a jump. Obviously, there's elective subjects being thrown in there as well. And with elective subjects, that kind of specialty study areas where there might not be as many resources out there to support the student in their study, really going by what they're learning in their classes. All right. And then that builds upon then into Year 11 and 12, where most of their subjects are now elective subjects which have selected, potentially going towards tertiary pathways or apprenticeships or what they want to do beyond high school. And that can sometimes be hard for a parent, because now they're looking at those 6 specialty areas all at a high level. What can they use to support that?
Yes, that's where setting that regular study pattern from Year 7 sets your child up for Year 11 and 12. It doesn't magically happen overnight. Everyone's got that notion, next year I will study. But if you haven't set the groundwork in that year, it's not going to happen. And it very rarely does. So I'd say a student going into Year 10, okay, this is the year now. Actually, how are you studying? What have you done the last 3 years? What has your time management been like? Year 10, for myself, is the year where, are you going to have an academic life in Year 11 and 12, or is there another pathway or another avenue for you to go on? And Year 10 students, they can cruise through Year 10 the way we spoke previously, and then magically in Year 11 and 12, you want to become academic. And this is where teachers will strongly advise you can't do certain subjects.
You've hit the nail on the head there, Rob. Year 10 is such an important year, and that can sometimes be a struggle at home too, because obviously it's where students are at with their development too and their age in life. But Year 10, based on their performance and what school your child is in, it will determine what subjects they can do. And yes, it does come up in debates then when They want a specific pathway. It may be from the child, and sometimes it's from the parent too, that they want a specific pathway in their senior years at school, heading towards a HSC. But there is then a bit of animosity towards the school because they can't go down that pathway, which kind of reflects on what we spoke about last week too, with the school having expertise, knowing how past students have gone in those years and having data-informed decision-making processes, why they're making a recommendation to you. Really, the school does not want to set up your student, your child, for failure. They are giving the best advice possible to support them in the avenue and going. But those discussions start happening in year 10 and not even at the end of year 10 because they're basing it on the data from year 10. So you need all your assessment tasks from the beginning of year 10 to be top notch and to your best performance because really it's about the half yearly point in year 10 that discussions will start happening. Schools might put in a contract or have some sort of written note that you can get into a subject potentially if your marks improve in semester 2. But year 10 kind of sets you up for success in those senior years. That's what message needs to get across. So great point there, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. But to have that success in year 10, you have to go back to what we said in year 7 and 8. Mm-hmm. You can see that across many other fields. People are very interested in football, or in Australia, what's called soccer. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to be a great soccer player. I'm going to put so much effort in at the start of year 11 or at 16 years old. You would have been playing from young. This is the same thing with study. So you are going to school, you are stepping into year 7, and your job is as a student now. So if you do want that academic success and you are interested in some sort of career that requires academic learning, you have to get that in as early as possible. The earlier you get it done, the better it is for you. Nothing to do with your IQ or your level of intelligence. What we found year after year is those that get themselves organized early, right at the beginning, see the success. So let's say now stepping into year 11, you've picked your subjects for year 10. Now you're coming into what stage is that?
So year 11 and 12
year
is
11
stage 6 at
stage
school.
6, yes.
Okay, so you're moving into year 11 and 12 now. And obviously, a lot of students do go in with the mentality that, yep, this is the time now to start performing. Like I've said before, that the paramount importance of year 10, because obviously sometimes the students haven't switched on then. But usually by year 11 and 12, and in most cases it's their choice to be there in year 11 and 12, they know what pathway they're going, there is a more clear mindset. So what recommendations would we be giving those students in year 11 and 12 in relation to, you're a senior now, these exams now matter potentially to your life beyond school, what kind of recommendations would we be giving there?
Well, first of all, let's realize what happens in year 11 and 12. Back when I did back in my day when we went to school, at the end of year 10, we had a school certificate. So you actually finished school in year 10. You had a school certificate, you had a mark for maths, you had a mark for English. Then you had to re-enroll back into year 11 and 12. The government changed that, and now people feel that if they dropped out of year 10, they dropped out of school, when it actually isn't the case. You are making that choice to go to year 11 and 12. You're not obliged to attend. Now, if you're not going to attend, well, you have to have a good reason why. Okay, I'm motivated to get into a trade, and then off you go. But if you are going into year 11 and 12, okay, fine, you can say, yes, I do want to do a trade as well, but then what are you doing to benefit yourself in year 11 and 12 to get to that trade? And again, you still need to study. You still got to put that effort into a study plan. Then you've got the students who are academic where, okay, you've picked the subjects that you've picked into year 11 and 12. Now we need to get into a regular study plan and then look at our stress management. There's a second thing that comes up. You've been academic, you've had good results through year 7 to year 10. You've put a certain amount of effort in to get very, very high marks. Now you've picked more vigorous academic subjects where those very, very high marks aren't coming as easily as you thought. So there comes the stress involved. Am I good enough for this subject? You probably are. You need to speak to your teacher, but then comes on to the stress management. What would you recommend in terms of
the stress management
Yeah,
side of it
absolutely.
all. And obviously, there's those two pillars. There's the academic side that you've got to know academics, and then yes, you do have to manage your stress. There's obviously a few things that you can put in place in order to manage stress. First and foremost, your support network, which primarily is your mother and father at home. All right, they're your initial support structure. They care about you, they love you. They're your foundation for support at home. But then we also want to look in the school ecosystem too. You've got your teachers, you've got your roll call or homeroom teacher within your school, you've got your year advisor or leader of wellbeing at school. Many teachers are available for you always to discuss and talk about how do you feel you're going in your subject area? What improvements can I make? And yes, what are your stresses and concerns? We see it all the time, Rob, don't we? That students, they're pushing so hard, and we're proud of you for pushing so hard. But sometimes, you do have to hit the brakes, don't you?
Yes.
And slow right down. And for people to say that to you, whether it's your parents or whether it's your teachers, they're giving you a truth because they can see how well you're going, but also that you need to take time out to relax. What would you be telling, Rob, some of the students you deal with in what they could do in order to kind of recharge or reboot themselves?
Well, usually we want a balanced week. So let's put in the times you will be studying. Let's put in the times you put in your social recreational activities, and you stick to them. This is the key. This is the key of having that timetable that we call for you that week. So these are the hours, say, I come back from school, 3:30, by the time I unwind, it's 4 o'clock. Okay, 4 to 6, you sit down and get your work done. 6:30, you may take the dog for a walk, come back. Okay, I've unwound, have dinner with the family, sit down again and look over your work that you need the next day. That could be an example. You could have a sporting activity in there. You could have time to socialize with friends in there. Whatever it is, write it down on a piece of paper, stick it on your wall. This is what I'm going to do Monday, this is what I'm going to do Tuesday. Put it through the whole week. And not just your study times. Put in all your recreational activities. Put in their sporting commitments. Put in times that you will socialize. Put in times that you would like to unwind, whatever that is for you. You could watch a movie. You could even do your games that students enjoy these days. These are relaxing activities that you need to have in your schedule. And then knock out the next 10 weeks into one term. And then during your 2-week holiday break, adjust that. Adjust it accordingly, seeing what was successful, what wasn't successful.
And that's the thing, something young people need to realise too. Like when we say write something down, I know that sometimes seems like a tedious task or something they might want to do, but there's a sense of achievement to sticking to a schedule you've made. When you can actually tick things on and say, yeah, you know what, I've done 1 week where I've actually stuck to this schedule perfectly. Or they might not have done it perfectly in the first week, but they get it right in the second week. And they build it up. And sticking to it in the fact of, yep, I've done X amount of study on these days this week, but then I also took a break on this week. I went and made sure I had time to exercise 3 times throughout the week. Like all of that gives a sense of achievement, which does support mental health and well-being. You know, that achievement of making that actually you're sticking to your schedule.
Absolutely, but also feel you don't have to have nailed the schedule perfectly.
Yeah.
1 week, you give yourself a mark of 4 out of 10 for your schedule. Great. The following week, you give yourself a mark of 9 out of 10 for your schedule. It is still up there. It is not something that you failed at your schedule. A schedule isn't an exam where, according to the success of your schedule, will be to the academic achievement that you will see. Now, of course, as the schedule gets better, you will see the academic achievement, but the schedule shouldn't add to your stress. So if it is too hard, take it away a little bit. Add some more recreational activities, but stick to it. Absolutely. And then be able to self-evaluate the schedule. So it could be a good idea on a Sunday, before you start school on a Monday, give yourself a mark out of 10 what you would personally give yourself for your schedule. Give it a 2. Give it a 9. If it's a 2, okay, I'll put a bit more effort in. If it's a 9, well, I'm very happy with it. I may add a few more hours of study here and there. You are the best person to tell, especially a senior coming into year 11 and 12. And like Chris said before, this is the time where you start looking for mentors and teachers at your school and ask them. This is if you can ask them, they'll give you feedback and you could improve your schedule.
Yeah, and that's actually an excellent point about that self-evaluation on how your schedule is going, because it's a journey, and we've mentioned this a few times in our previous podcasts too, that we're all on an ongoing journey beyond high school in our professions to continually get better. Now, in the school context, we've said it, every age group, every stage in school, we're constantly growing our schedule and we're learning that skill of being independent studiers at home. Rob, we're approaching the HSC now, and you see a lot of students in a very high-end area of mathematics. What would be your recommendation approaching the HSC that they should be doing when they get there?
First of all, what is in an exam? We want to give you marks. So I use the analogy. It is like a table full of money. Don't go grabbing that last dollar at the end. Carefully, whatever is in front of you, put it in your pocket, slow and steady, till you get to the end of the table. That's my analogy in sitting an exam. Collect your marks slowly and accurately. Yeah, Sydney Morning Herald always have that one question that very few people got correct. But that's not the question we're looking at you getting right. We are looking at you getting everything else that you could have done before getting that correct. And also, people say, I studied really, really hard the night before the test. You do not study hard the night before the test. You think back on what you really, really know, the questions you're expecting to get correct, and that's what you focus on the night before the exam. It's like getting fit. No one in a sporting event runs all night to get fit to play whatever they're going to play. This is the same thing with study, especially for seniors. So in terms of our third session, Chris.
Yep. Let's bring it home, eh?
Yeah, let's bring it home.
Look, if I'm going to then summarise what we've been saying into some clear points in preparing for examinations. Firstly, with exams, know what you're studying for. Know the exam structure, what types of questions are in the exam, so you can best prepare yourself for those exams. Past papers are obviously the best way to prepare yourself in that manner and train you up for them. Secondly, as we've highlighted many times throughout this one, the importance of a consistent study schedule that doesn't just factor in academic study, but also what you're doing in your leisure time, your breaks, your work, and through achieving that study schedule, that will build your confidence and support your mental health and well-being, which obviously is the next area. Monitor yourself. Who are your support networks? Who can you go to if you are worried, if you are concerned? That being your teachers, your school counsellor, your parents obviously at home, who are all managing and looking out for your well-being there. And then also other factors which we're going to be talking about more in future episodes that are healthy lifestyle and living, and the importance of sleep. What do you think there, Rob?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We can only touch on certain topics for now, but this opens up the floodgates to how are you living your life. This is what we'll be touching on in the oncoming episodes.
That's it. So I hope you enjoyed it today, guys, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. See you next time.